Hi, welcome to another episode of Plaza Injury Law Presents The Cooking Lawyer. Today, we're going to talk about the no-fault jurisdiction, personal injury protection, and the tort requirement in the state of Kansas. And then we're going to make dark chocolate chip oatmeal whiskey cookies. The entire concept of a no-fault jurisdiction can be confusing to people. I occasionally have problems when I have cases in Kansas because of that confusion. For example, I recently represented a client who was injured in a motor vehicle collision in Kansas. My client was driving along on a divided highway on his way back to Kansas City, Missouri, when he was broadsided by another driver who ran a stop sign. Well, the responding police officer told my client, as he was being packed into the back of an ambulance, that it didn't matter whether the other driver had run the stop sign or not, because Kansas was a no-fault state. Well, obviously this is wrong. The officer should have cited the other driver for running the stop sign. And now I'm going to hopefully clarify this issue for all of you and explain a little bit about PIP, the tort requirement, and really what it means for Kansas and other jurisdictions to be considered no fault. All right, now let's go to Kansas. If you live in Kansas and own a car, your auto policy has personal injury protection coverage. We call that PIP. I've always thought that the acronym PIP sounded like a brand of British cookies or tea or something. And I think that there's a British kid in an episode of South Park called Pip. But anyway, that's what it's called. We call it PIP, personal injury protection. Personal injury protection coverage is a type of health insurance. It is primary health insurance, which is used to pay for any medical care that you need that arises from a motor vehicle collision. Kansas law requires that an auto policy include $4,500 in PIP benefits, although you can have more. You just have to buy it. You can't have less. So if you're in a car accident and need medical care, the ER, ambulance transport, chiropractic care, any related care, you have at least $4,500 under your PIP coverage to use for that. Now that $4,500 in PIP benefits is there for you to use from your own insurance policy regardless of fault. The best way to understand this is with a single car accident. If you're driving along one day in Kansas and bam, you hit a pole, well, that was certainly your fault. Even though that was your fault, your own auto insurance will cover medical care costs through your PIP coverage at a minimum of $4,500 or more if you have bought extra coverage. So we've talked about a single car accident. What about a situation where there is a car at fault? This is actually really confusing for people, so this is important. If two cars are in a collision, and one of them caused that collision, it is still each individual driver's own personal auto policy that will pay out PIP benefits to their insured. So, driver 1 runs a stop sign and hits driver 2. Driver 1 looks to their own PIP policy for up to $4,500 in medical coverage, and driver 2 looks to their own policy for PIP coverage, regardless of who is at fault. However, if the party not at fault brings a claim or lawsuit against the at-fault party for damages. The PIP carrier for the party not at fault gets its money back, the PIP payout, refunded to them by the at-fault party's insurance when a settlement is paid. This is called subrogation. Now, it's important to remember that the party not at fault cannot, in Kansas, bring a claim or lawsuit against the at-fault party for damages in a motor vehicle collision unless the party not at fault has medical expenses that meet or exceed $2,000 in medical care costs. That is something that we refer to as the tort requirement. So, as you can see, Kansas is a no-fault state only as it pertains to PIP coverage. As soon as there is a party at fault for causing a motor vehicle collision, then negligence theories and other theories of civil liability come into play. And apart from the fact that Kansas is a modified comparative fault jurisdiction, which will be covered in a different video, liability for causing injuries from a motor vehicle collision is the same as any other jurisdiction. So it's important to remember that in Kansas, the whole concept of a no-fault jurisdiction only applies to PIP benefits. That's all. That's why it's important for law enforcement to issue citations in the state of Kansas against the at-fault party, because it helps clarify liability for people like me when I'm trying to help people who have been injured. Okay, and now, congratulations. You have survived my description of the no-fault jurisdiction and PIP and the tort requirement. Now, we get to make dark chocolate oatmeal whiskey cookies. So, these I've been making for a really long time. Everybody loves these. And I want to say something about the fact that they're whiskey cookies. That sounds very controversial and maybe sexier than it really is. Most cookie recipes require vanilla. And I don't know if anybody out there has ever taken a look at the nutritional information on a bottle of vanilla. But vanilla is just about 40% grain alcohol anyway. So you might as well use something that you like. You may as well use something good. I mean, I don't know why everybody runs around making everything taste like vanilla all the time anyhow. So I start with 2 cups of flour, 3 eggs, semi or bittersweet dark chocolate chips. The recipe is in the basket at the end. I don't grease the pan. I use a silicone spoon to fold everything together, and I melt the butter in a pan. I don't measure the amount of oatmeal that I need because sometimes the oatmeal makes it sort of a crispy cookie, and other times the oatmeal is there to make it chewy and to sort of bind it together. But I think you're going to love these. These are great. I'm internationally famous for these cookies. Enjoy.